Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to continue looking at the new Stormcast Eternals Battletome, the first of two Battletomes coming out for Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. Now in our last video, we checked out looking at the enhancements and the general core rules for the Stormcast, and in today's video, we're going to look at the Grand Strategies, Battle Tactics, Core Battalions and Battleline Options. Now the reason we've chosen to look at these particular parts in a separate sort of video is, while the others have sort of like some sort of cool combos about this, I think this is general gameplay on what an army list building is, what all of these things entice you into. So I think the Battleline Options here sort of sits well with the Core Battalions, Battle Tactics and Grand Strategies, all of which we can sort of build our armies around. So we're going to take a look at all these different things and just talk about how we can unlock certain Battleline Options, what we can do with certain battalions and how we can use them in comparison to some of the more generic battalions, and also Battle Tactics and Grand Strategies, which ones are good, which ones are situational, and which ones we should maybe make sure we've got, because if they're easy takes, why not make them happen? With that said though, let's get cracking on into it, and today we're going to be looking at this particular part of the Stormcast Eternals Battletome. So first of all, let's look at our three unique grand strategies that we get for Stormcast Eternals. So the first of these is Draconif Defiance. You complete this objective if only heroes on the battlefield are either Draconif, Stardrake or Dracoth. Effectively, you're only allowed to have dragon heroes left alive. Now, this can be pretty cool because a lot of them do have some areas sort of affecting things like Rain of Stars, and they've got some shooting attacks on them, and they're also just pretty powerful monsters in general. What's really cool about this is you can sort of build into this with some of the lists within Stormcast Eternals. You've obviously got the all-dragon army, and you can go with the command trait, the Menagerie one, which gives you the -1 to wound on your dragons, helping keep them alive, and also you can put some offensive buff stuff, you know, like the double damage, or even put some other artifacts on them and some spells and stuff on them to make them good at killing. This, of course, though, does mean that you are going to limit yourself to which heroes you can take, because the only ones allowed to be taken can either ride Draconif, Stardrake, or Dracoth. This doesn't limit you to no magic, though, because don't remember that Krondus, the giant son of Dracothian, is a wizard himself, so he's going to give you access to that at least. Our second grand strategy is Pillars of Victory. You complete this objective if the only Battleline units on the table at the end of the game are Redeemer units, so pretty sweet there. This one you only gain if you're playing out with your units that are Redeemer as your only Battleline, so of course you can't take other Battleline options. You're going to have to rely on sort of that strength of those particular models, so things like Liberators, Sequitors and Vindictors are probably the best at it, if not the only decent one at doing this, but it's a solid one. It does limit you on this one, much like the first one, but you know, if you've already built into it, why not do it? Because you know, it's easy to keep Vindictors alive when they're on a 3-up save base. Sacred Charge is the last one. You complete it if you've got 2 or more Cities of Sigmar units on the table at the end of the game. This one obviously only works for Stormkeep armies, so you're going to have to sort of build into this. This is really hard because this means most likely you're going to have to keep the only 2 Cities of Sigmar units you have on the table alive to the end of the game, which can be rather hard because Cities of Sigmar are much more flimsy. Your opponent can really go for those units and easily get most of them off, unless of course you know they're like Phoenix Guard. But yeah, definitely a hard one. All in all, I don't think any of these are particularly great, and I probably wouldn't take any of these over the generic ones we already have access to. I do think that some of them potentially have some decent build if you've gone down particular ways. They're just playing into the game you're already playing, and you can sort of go with the idea of like, if I've not got this on the table, I've lost anyway, so you know, the Draconif and the Pillars. Sacred Charge, I think, is pretty hard to do with a Stormcast army, considering you're only likely going to have 2 units in your army, and they generally won't be too expensive, because otherwise all those points have been sunk into the Cities of Sigmar units, and you're not going to have many Stormcast on the table. And so next, let's talk about our Battle Tactics. There are 6 unique ones available to the Stormcast Eternals. And I think much like the ones we saw in the Sons of Behemoth Battletome update, these particular ones here are very specific, very much like our own Grand Strategies as well. I do not think any of these particularly overwrite any of the ones we've sort of gotten already in the generic ones, but I do think these just give us optional things to do on the battlefield based on the units we're already taking with Stormcast Eternals. Now, the first one here, Pioneers of the Realms. You complete this if all objectives wholly within your opponent's territory are controlled by Cities of Sigmar units. Obviously, this can only be used in a Stormkeep army. And what's cool about this, not what's cool about this. The interesting thing with this is meaning you're having to go take your opponent's objectives with Cities of Sigmar units, which can be generally hard. Generally, you'll bring them in as either screens or supporting pieces. You never really bring in any of your City of Sigmar units to be your main sort of thrusting piece into your opponent's lines. You know, you might play with like Iron Drakes or something like that that brings some good shooting to the army, but you're generally not going to be, pushing that unit deep into your opponent's territory, and you're generally not going to have enough for a lot of scenarios to control all the objectives in your opponent's territory. There's going to be scenarios where you need 3, and the likelihood of you having 3 units within your army is not very high. We then got No Challenge Too Great, where an enemy hero must be slain by attacks from a Redeemer unit in melee. This one's not too bad. Vindictors can definitely do it with their mortal wound output, and even Sequitors and Liberators can put a decent amount of hurt down that you can take out some smaller heroes, or even do the last couple of wounds onto a monster or something like that. So this one is probably one of the better ones, and you'll find you're probably actually managing to do this a little bit. If your opponent's got those forward moving monsters, I think Vindictors will be taking this one out a lot. Hammer Strike Assault, you pick one hero in your opponent's army with 10 or more wounds and none allocated to it. You must destroy that hero. This is pretty cool because if you sort of can focus your power onto one sort of place, I definitely think this battle tactic here is certainly available to a lot of armies in the game. So definitely one you can use. I've played a couple of games with the Stormcast now. I've gone back, and because I'm sort of missing the idea of using these as like the first ones I think of, I've definitely had times where I could score this one and get the battle tactic points I require. We then have Lightning Shattered Morale, which is pick one enemy unit with Bravery 10 or more, and you make a model flee from that unit. Now, this sounds hard, but it does mean you can sort of plan to get this off if your opponent leaves units exposed that don't have champions, and potentially, or they run out of CP. You can drain your opponent of CP earlier in the phases and really hammer home something. Combined with some deep bravery debuffs from somewhere, you could probably bring some in from Cities of Sigmar to maybe help with this, things like a Charybdis, etc. But this one is going to be hard to do, but there are going to be times when you can get it off. Then got Draconif Destruction, where you pick one enemy unit and you destroy it with a Draconif, Dracoth, or Star Drake unit. This is pretty cool. If you've got one of those units in your army, there's the likelihood that they are going to destroy something, so pretty cool and simple. And then A Matter of Honor, pick one enemy monster, destroy it with a Draconith. So this is obviously the newer, bigger dragons. Pretty cool rule. This is going to see some use. I think the last couple here are definitely some use. It's particularly these two in Hammer Strike Assault that I think are going to be the ones you sort of see used more often. And a challenge, No Challenge Too Great is definitely one of the ones you might see a little bit more. Pioneers of the Realm and Lightning Shattered Morale are definitely much harder to use. I don't think any of these are particularly great or particularly sort of get. I think probably the easiest one to do is Draconif Destruction. If you've got those dragons on the table, likelihood they are going to kill something, so that one's definitely probably the easy one to do. I like these just playing with the army and how it's sort of supposed to play without being sort of easy autos in the army. You're going to have to actually plan to use them, which is nice, which is what you want from these battle tactics. You don't want it to be easy gets, and so I hope that continues for the rest of the other armies in the game as we see more Battletome updates. Alrighty, so now we're going to take a look at core battalions. There's some really interesting ones, I think, here for the Stormcast Eternals. So the first battalion we've got is we have the Redemption Brotherhood. Now this one requires us to take 3 units, and we have a maximum possible battalion size of having 6 units. It's really nice. Now, Stormcast don't have access to many monsters or many artillery pieces, and many of them aren't particularly great. So this is like sort of our sort of change on how we would run a battle regiment. We don't generally have that many heroes in a Stormcast Eternals army. Everything is generally a little bit expensive, and so finding a way to get us a bit of a one-drop while enabling us to take, say, something like a command entourage with our heroes and get that extra artifact while also just remaining here, not having to take too many heroes within the army, is nice. I definitely think the Redemption Brotherhood has a great place in the armies of Stormcast Eternals. It's been one of the ones I've been using a lot at the moment to sort of just get my drops down. I think it is a solid one we'll see a lot. There's not much else to say about it, really. It's a unified battalion. Brotherhood Command, which is 2 to 3 commanders and 3 units. I really like that it's gone with commanders for Stormcast Eternals because it allows you to take big or small heroes. And then we've also got 3 units, and there's no other requirements for it. This gives us the strategist ability where we get an extra command point once per turn. Solid, if nothing else. An extra command point can be really useful. I do, though, however, think this is probably just that little bit worse than, say, taking a command entourage for an artifact or something like that, or playing around with that. But this is a solid alternative to a battle regiment in, say, smaller size games like 1,000-point games. You can get this battalion in there. You won't be one drop like a battle regiment, but you will be getting a command point out of it, so there's that to think about. The last one we have here is the Soul Strike Brotherhood, which is 2 to 3 units and 1 to 3 artillery pieces. They get the Slayer's ability, where once per battle, one unit from the battalion can receive the all-out attack or unleash hell command without the order being issued and without a command point being spent. This is always interesting. The fact you don't get this in addition to anything else is a little bit of a downside to this battalion, but, you know, it's cool. I would like this a little bit more if it was like Slayers plus Unified would be really cool, but another battalion, just giving you some more options to play in maybe some of your models. Maybe you really love those Cell Star Ballistas and want to get them on the table. All in all, I think out of these, we're probably likely to see the Redemption Brotherhood a decent amount with that nice unified 6 units. But the other two, I don't think we're going to see too much play. I generally think the core battalions versions are better. Things like the Command Entourage is just better than both of the other two and gives a lot to a Redemption Brotherhood. And so lastly, let's talk about the Battleline options available to us with Stormcast Eternals. For starters, we've got more just pure Battleline options than ever before. Judicators become Battleline don't require us to be Cities of Sigmar. Obviously, because we're no longer having to worry about things with the Coalition rules, we actually can get these things as just generic Battleline now, because, you know, they sort of count but don't count as Battleline options inside of other armies, so there's nothing sort of untowards about making Judicators pure Battleline. Sequitors as pure Battleline is really nice. I like that all the baseline troops that we've had over the years, because now Vindictors are Battleline as well, Liberators, Sequitors, and Vindictors are all pure Battleline. I really like this because these are obviously the models people own the most of, so it's really nice to see them be just pure Battleline. Now, of course, we've got Vanquishers in there as well. These are the great weapon wielding Stormcast Eternals, the new kit coming out alongside the Vindictors. So we've got 5 generic Battleline options, which gives us a ton of play. I really like that we've got so many options for the army just straight out the gate. It's nice just to have some options here to play with. I do think Vindictors and Judicators are probably my picks of the bunch. I don't think anything really competes for them, though if you are in a very combat-heavy meta, Sequitors are a decent option for a survivable Battleline unit, thanks to their ability to get that 5-up ward. They, unlike Liberators, can get the +1 to save, so they can drop down to a 3-up save and start ignoring rend with some additional buffs, and also that 5-up ward, thanks to empowering their shields, is just really solid. Now, we also get some cool Battleline if options throughout the army, and more than ever before with Stormcast, which is great. There's a ton of different options in Stormcast, and I think this particular part here with the Battleline options really opens up the Battletome properly and allows us to explore in different areas where we might never have had the ability to before. First of all, my personal favourite is Battleline in Knights Excelsior, and this unlocks all the Paladin units for us. This is Annihilators, Decimators, Protectors, and Retributors. Really nice to see the new Annihilators in here, but for me, it's all about those Decimators, Protectors, and Retributors. Some of my favourite models in the Stormcast Eternal range before now. I'm just seeing all these models in here with Knights Excelsior. There's some really cool buffs. If you go back to our previous video, the part 1 of our Battletome review, you'll see like talking about some of the abilities we can start to give Paladins. So I'm really happy to see that we've got this effect here, and we've got an option to make them Battleline. This was always just a big problem with Paladins. They hit hard, but they would just be not Battleline. They were just better options on the table than them. Now we've got Battleline in Hammers of Sigmar as well, and they unlock all our Dracothian Guard units. Fulminators, Concussors, Tempestors, and Desolators. This is awesome. People have been wanting to run Draco Guard for so long as Battleline. It's been one of my biggest gripes not having them available and not being able to do that all cavalry Stormcast army. And yes, I know we've got some other options we'll talk about in a sec, but I really love that these have become Battleline. In Hammers of Sigmar, it's pretty cool because when they're near objectives, they get that nice 6-up ward, so they're a solid unit, no doubt. Some really good units in that selection. Fulminators are absolutely amazing. Concussors can do some nice mortal wound output. All in all, 3-up save on all these units, being able to have, you know, a full cavalry armory of 6 wound, counting as 2 models on objective. models that are also, you know, can be on that 2-up save a lot is pretty darn cool. Battleline and Tempest Lords, Prosecutors. I mean, another great unit. Prosecutors look awesome. They were one of the, you know, the most popular units, I guess, aesthetic-wise, when the Stormcast Eternals first came out in their initial box set for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and they've got some pretty cool rules. The Javelin-wielding Stormcast Eternals that are Prosecutors actually have a 3-up save base, which is really solid. I'd be interested in working around and trying out a Tempest Lord line that really makes good use of Prosecutors. If nothing else, it's some really cheap, good screens that become Battleline for you, and can open up a lot of other options within the army. Then we've got Battleline if your general is a Draconif or Star Drake, and this is the Stormdrake Guard. This is how you make the all-dragon army. You take that Knight Draconis, or you take Krondus or Karazai as your general, and you get Stormdrake Guard as Battleline all-dragon army here. I mean, everyone loves this. Battleline in Astral Templars, Vanguard Hunters and Vanguard Paladors. This is a really interesting one, because these units right here, because you're playing in Astral Templars, will mean you're going to be immune to monstrous rampages, but also Vanguard Paladors and Hunters have teleports up the wazoo, so you can make a really sort of technical play style army with lots of moving parts and lots of teleporting across the table with some really cool models. I absolutely love Vanguard Paladors. They're a really, really cool model, I think, and I'm looking forward to trying out them in some Astral Templars. And lastly, we've got Battleline if the general is a Knight Judicator. We've got the brand new Vigilors. These are the new archers coming out in the new release. Should be out very soon, but another cool shooting unit option here alongside the Judicators. So we've got, you know, a great variety of different options here for our Battleline units. I mean, we've got hard-hitting stuff with decent armor saves, things like our Paladins and our Dracothian Guard. We've got monster mash lists here with Stormdrake Guard. We've got some movement armies with Vanguard Hunters. There's every sort of style of Stormcast here available as a Battleline option. I mean, you've got, you know, a Sacrosanct Chamber army focusing around Sequitors. I think the only thing really for me missing is maybe someone taking Evocators as Battleline, which would be really cool. I think it's the only one that's, for me, missing is a Battleline option of Evocators. But other than that, there's a ton of great options. What's your particular favorite? I'd love to hear in the comments below, but that's going to be it for us today on this particular part of the Battletome review. We're going to start going through the units next, so check in back real soon. Well, thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine community here at Cinderful Gaming, you can do so by coming and joining our Discord, of which there is a link in the description of the video to go and join. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel in another way, you can do so either by Patreon, YouTube members, or by going and purchasing some merch on our Teespring store. You can find the links to all three in the description of the video, once again, to Patreon, YouTube members, and to our merch store on Teespring. But also, we'd like to give a special shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. So, thank you to our patrons Christian Weir, James, Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, Tim Newman, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, MJ, and Dynat226. And a special thank you as well to our YouTube members Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zeop, Chris Wallace, Turai12, Vinny, Lock Lorick, Matt Mollin, Becca Kinski Groupie, The Johnny84, and El Mapache. Thank you as well, a special thanks especially to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel. An absolute legend of a person. And then thank you as well to the legend that is Xmorphic. He does so much amazing work in the background of our Discord server, making sure everything works and looks nice and pretty there for us all to enjoy. So that's enough said from me though. Thank you all for watching. Once again, stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.